Man, it's been a pretty busy summer for me. It's been pretty long and I've been pretty busy, but I haven't forgotten about you guys. Believe me, there's a lot of things that are in the pipelines for me to discuss with you guys, and they're all things I think are really important. You'll see them as I continue to make them, but as we continue to go along, I'll try to keep you guys updated on what the next steps are. For the today's video, and one of the reasons I decided to start from today is because yesterday I was listening to the radio because my car's Bluetooth was acting up again, and obviously I'm not gonna, try to suffer through the ads. So I decided to turn on the news. So the story went, and I will put one of the articles somewhere on the page so you can see it right now. But there's lots of news stations covering this story. Honestly, the thing about this story isn't even how crazy the actual story was. I think most people would actually just only look at this story for what it is, talk about it, say how crazy it is, and continue. What I want to talk about is a little bit something different. So let's get into it, shall we? Now, as you can see, the story goes that in the morning, it was in the afternoon while I was listening to this, but what happened is one man was killed and another was left with a severed hand. Now, according to the news, the attacks happened within minutes of each other and not too far apart from each other. It's not too clear if it's the same person that did both attacks or if they're two completely different attacks. They're kind of being a little vague with it, but at this point, they have made at least one arrest of someone who they think might be one of the attackers. So that's kind of the context. So, with that said, what happened is the lady for the news channel on the radio, I believe it was CBC, I think it was channel like 88.1, she asked people to call in and voice their opinions about it. Now, don't worry, obviously, this is Canada, so you're not gonna get like weird people talking like the weirdest things. For the most part, it was pretty tame for asking people to give their opinions on such a horrific incident. So as they were waiting for people to call in and start lining up the phones, the first person to talk was, I think, some sort of a former city councilor. I don't remember her name, something Woodward or Woodcraft or Woodchipper. It's not important. But she said that one of their problems is a lack of federal funding for mental institutions. Now, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Vancouver, but we actually used to have a very famous mental institution within like about 20-minute drive from Vancouver if you're driving at nighttime. So it's not too far apart, but unfortunately it was closed down some few years ago for reasons unbeknownst to anybody. And as you would hear, a lot of people do talk about, like, why is it closed? Why not open these things? Right now, honestly, I think the only real people that go there are people trying to do maybe movies, teenagers breaking in because of the stories that were there, amateur YouTubers who are trying to do like their own vlog or blog thing. But it's basically the same thing that happens everywhere. The movie Joker with Hawking Phoenix. What happened with that character is that he was getting constant medications, but at some point they're like, "Yeah, sorry, it's no longer in the budget to take care of you anymore." Like the police need new toys, and you're not important. And they basically threw out all of these people onto the streets. And now Vancouver's a pretty big place, but if you go to this area of Vancouver where all of these people are now located, which is the downtown core, it's probably known to be one of the most dangerous, horrific, but also like sad places in the world. You know, like you see LA, you see Seattle, some other countries where a homeless population and people who have these mental issues and addicts of any kind, you know, unfortunately, it's a problem that's pretty universal, and it's not exactly something that's unique to Vancouver, but Vancouver's one is known to kind of stand out as being kind of like especially awful. And I guess that just comes down to priorities of city council and how they wish to treat these kinds of situations, and how they prefer to move their money to different things. The next person I called was an Indian man, and the reason I bring that up is because he said he is Indian. He had an Indian name, and he wanted to voice his opinion from his own ethnicity and background. And this is especially important because he wanted to talk about the issue being with immigration. Too many other Indians coming in, and saying that naturally, with all of the population, things will get chaotic. As you'd expect, that person was quickly shut down because the topic of this issue is more about this attack rather than immigration, which is kind of its own topic entirely. But I think that he might have a point. Not in that, like immigration is a bad thing that's happening to Canada. That can be its own topic that I can talk about if you guys want me to in the future. But at this moment, I think that news person was right to shut that down to focus on this specific issue on mental health, addiction, and these kinds of topics that go regarding this specific issue. However, all that said, I think that there is some small level of validity to what he's saying with a lot of people being in Canada now, because the infrastructure is not going to be able to handle when the infrastructure is not going to be built for this amount of people, you know. So I think the situation is a little bit more nuanced than that. There's not going to be as many seats in schools when they're all full. It's going to be very cramped. Buses are going to be cramped. There's just not enough doctors in hospitals, and you're going to see wait times increase drastically. There's not enough money in the budget for social workers as it is, so increasing the number of people is also going to exacerbate that. So that's definitely something that's going to kind of make the issues that aren't even about immigration somewhat have an impact. Have immigration have an impact on them when things kind of balloon and inflate like this. Speaking of which, I guess the economy is one of them, with all the both inflation and recession we're kind of facing right now. Now, we can continue to talk about all that stuff, but I think we should just continue to talk about the calls and what people's opinions are on this issue. So there was a couple calls after that, but I was getting close to my destination, and I didn't have time to sit in my car and just listen to every single person, take notes and listen to everyone. I kind of already had a bunch of things on my mind, and I just needed to get to where I was needing to go to. So another quick car ride, but for the most part, there was a lot of variation, not exactly on like a crackdown on mental illness or homeless people or drugs and stuff like that, but rather to support these people. And I think it's pretty important, especially in a very progressive region like Greater Vancouver area. So you're gonna get a lot of people who are more understanding and trying to look at it from this point of view. I will talk about this a little bit towards the end, but I really recommend watching the video below. I'll link it in the description from channel number 5. No, I think the YouTube channel is called Channel 5. And he did a really great video kind of going to talk about all of these kind of situations.
They leave you alone at rock bottom. Rock bottom's so cushy, they keep you alive.
Beyond assisted suicide, it's an abandonment. They would rather assist you to become a zombie instead of being against the immigration crisis, right?
San Francisco is coming to a city near you.
Other cities in the States, but the kind of core concept still exists. But I think one of the most important things to talk about isn't necessarily what we can say. Honestly, there's like millions of people in around Vancouver, and honestly, everybody's gonna have their own idea of what to do. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's any correct answer. There's a lot of incorrect answers, but the correct answer is usually a lot harder to find. Now, it's easy to talk about, what kind of policies we enact and what kind of people we have who are going to put themselves out there and try to resolve situations. We can have doctors, we can have psychiatrists, therapists, social workers, and honestly, these are the most important people to talk to. Unfortunately, they're not going to be around if the city's not going to have a priority on putting them out there and giving them the kind of wage to sustain themselves to be able to continue this job. And that's kind of one of the problems with city councilors is the only thing they care about is more people into the city equals more taxes. So all they do is just try to bring in more people, and they're not really trying to think about what kind of solutions they can have for people who are already living here, who already exist here. So that part of the problem becomes value of homes increase and people can no longer afford where they live, and they're kind of being pushed away from the place they used to call home. And that's something people have talked about again regarding housing, which is another topic that I'll get to all in due time. But that's just kind of politicians for you, right? They have big mouths, they like to talk, but they're not so good at listening. Anything we try to say is, at the end of the day, they're going to fall on deaf ears. So what the person on the radio was asking for is to have people ask, what kind of support should we have? What kind of accountability? And on what level? Is it on a municipal, which is like city? Is it on provincial, province or state for America, or federal, which is, like the entire country? And, people gave all of the answers, but again, it's all going to fall on deaf ears. When politicians can't listen, but all they do is talk, there's not going to be too much solutions. I think one of the most important things we can do right now is, instead of relying on people who do a lot of talking and not a lot of doing, we can instead listen to the people who are able to listen, and do they hear a lot of awful things said about them. And unfortunately, they're also the people that don't really have a voice, and I think it's important to ask them how we can best support them. See, many people say, oh, we gotta give them treatment, institutionalize them. And then another person says, oh, that won't work, we can't force them into a mental institution. And another says, well, we can't just let them, just lie there on the street running away. And another says housing, and another says, oh no, they like being outside, they don't want to go outside. And another adds, oh, they only like being outside because they're not allowed to take their 3 only possessions they have in the world inside with them. And those are all valid in their own right. A lot of these people who are suffering from these mental illnesses and drug addiction really do not want to go to a lot of these housing. That said, there's many that do, and there's just not enough houses to go around, even if I know all of them did. So that there's a lot of angles to look at, but unfortunately there's not enough to say, oh, this is what we need to do because this is how much of capability we have to do it. Now, if you haven't already gathered, I'm not exactly any social worker. I'm not a psychiatrist, therapist, city planner, cop, or honestly even someone who dedicated my entire life on researching mental illnesses or the financial ways it takes to solve this. And obviously, there's going to be a lot more people who are probably a lot more capable of trying to come up with solutions to try to fix these issues. But unfortunately, the way I see it, all of them have been spending their decades talking about this issue, and clearly the fact that this issue is still happening and the issue is not going to be solved overnight, and I'm sure 10 years down the line we're going to still continue to have this issue, shows that they're probably at a loss too. It's fine and all to kind of like see what the experts say who've tried to figure the best ways to solve this, and there has been, if you do a census and a research study, you can see trends going up and down on how things have improved and how things have gotten worse for, in this special case, specifically for this issue. However, as I said earlier, sometimes the real experts is the very people who know this issue better than anyone. The way I see it right now is like there's all these adults in this room who are acting like they're arguing over who wants to babysit a problem child. Problem child being in quotations, kind of as a metaphor for the people who are undergoing these situations right now. And I think nobody is asking, asking this child in this case, here, child, where would you like to go? How do you want us to try to treat this issue? Because while all these people have their expertise in PhD in psychiatry or planning in city, planning degree, cop, whatever they do to solve this issue, but the people who are experts with this issue are the people who are living on the street every day. Nobody would have the same experience of someone who's actually on the street every single day than they are. And I would think they probably would have some ideas on how it would be best suited to help them, because they would know what they even want or what the best thing for them is. So I think a lot of these people up in politics need to kind of like take their pointy sticks and stop arguing with each other and start trying to look for better answers, because sometimes you'd be surprised when the answer is standing right in front of you the whole time. Now, here's an important issue that I need to bring up, because this issue, again, isn't just specific to Vancouver. If anything, this issue has been kind of a problem all over Canada. And the sad reality is that in the last couple of years, it's just gotten worse and worse, up to extremely difficult and problematic situation. And you do have to put a lot of blame on politicians, specifically on Trudeau, who has caused a lot of this financial hell on all Canadians. There's a lot of people who are going to say oh, like the other party's not going to be much better. It's not like the NDP have done anything to fix it. They've made the issue worse. And then the Conservative Party never cares about these people either. And, there's a lot of things we can talk about, this politician, that politician. But right now, we do have to understand that the current issue we have been in now has been gotten much worse under the current leadership. And, if things don't get fixed soon, we're going to see a lot more Canadian families continue to join them on the street. And if that thing continues to exist, if Trudeau continues to stay in government, I'm concerned that, there's not going to be enough fentanyl in the world to send every Canadian family. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that if Trudeau's plan is to continue to send Canadians onto the streets, there's not enough fentanyl in the world to do what he thinks is the right way to take care of this. Because so far, something that he's already gotten a lot of criticism for is the MAID medically assisted dying plan, which is to kill yourself. Now, jokes aside, what can we do? Because obviously, as I said, voting isn't going to do anything. Doesn't matter who you vote for. Politicians don't have a fix, even if they wanted to fix it. Well, I think one of the most important things you can do is supporting support systems, because even on the most selfish level, if you have this small amount of empathy, you can try to realize that a lot of us are simply just one paycheck away from being in this situation. So doing what you can to support these situations now can have long-term benefits to kind of support yourself if knock on wood, you ever end up in this situation yourself. So while our tax dollars are going to fund genocide overseas at worst, or at best fund extravagant vacations for politicians, I can remember the last time I went on a vacation. I can't imagine most Canadians being able to afford vacation these days. Staycation is the best we can do. So while your tax money is not going to teachers or the people who do need it, maybe you can find a way that you can support them. Your time is just as valuable as your donation, and I'm not asking you to go around and giving money you don't have, as I understand a lot of us are in difficult financial situation right now. But as I said before, you can ask the experts yourself. I'm not an expert. I don't have the best solutions. But, you don't exactly have to be in Vancouver to do this. I'm sure you have a population seeking help where you live. Whether you live in a small town or a large city, there's definitely going to be a population of people who are seeking help, and people out there who are doing everything they can to help them. Soup kitchens or safe injection sites or all kinds of stuff. Those people would definitely know a lot more on how to properly handle the situation than I would. So I would ask if it is in you to have some time to help in any way. You can probably, at the very least, go ask them what the best solution is. Again, I'm not the right person to ask, but if anybody would, it would be, people in that room, either the people that are helping them or the people that are receiving any kind of help. Also, try to be courteous and professional. Don't go out there shoving a microphone in their faces and try to interrogate them. Everybody's trying to live their life, so don't be an annoying jerk about it. So, see what you can do even yourself, if there's a hole in the that you can kind of fill in the market, be the first to kind of like start something. But I think if I can have a message for the people who are in this situation, you can even be one of those people yourself who are seeking help, and if you are, you know what, that's completely okay. I see you, you exist, and your life is just as important as mine and anybody else's. I view your life just as important as, the Prime Minister, the Queen of England, or whatever. No human life matters more than anybody else's, no matter what your financial situation is. So everybody does exist. Big Brother might all they do is take, but maybe see what Little Brother can give, if that makes sense. So yeah, again, I do recommend you watch a much better video by an actual good YouTuber who explains the situation much better than I could. Not just on the situation, kind of like it shows you what the situation looks like, but how you can kind of like fight the stigma around it as well. Channel's called Channel 5, and again, I'll show the description in the links below. Thanks. Bit of a short video, but don't worry, I have some longer essays as well.
Channel 5 live worldwide, Hollywood and Vine.
Fuck the authority, Channel 5 News.
Channel 55. We don't fuck with custers. And 5 is the best number.